Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like the more you give in a relationship, the less she seems to appreciate you? At first, everything feels perfect. She texts you constantly. She wants your attention. She tells you how different you are from other men. But slowly, something changes. She starts replying slower. She cancels plans more often. Sometimes she only shows up when she needs something. And one day you realize something uncomfortable. You're trying harder, but she's respecting you less. Now here's the truth most people won't tell you. Before we dive deeper, a quick message. If you've been learning from my videos and you want to support this work, you can subscribe to me on Facebook with a paid membership, send stars, or join my YouTube channel's paid community. Your support helps me create more powerful content for you, and I truly appreciate every bit of it. All right, now let's continue. Women don't usually take advantage of a man because he's weak physically. They take advantage of him because of certain psychological weaknesses he unknowingly shows. Weaknesses that quietly signal, "I'm afraid to lose you." And when that signal becomes obvious, the power dynamic begins to shift. Today, I'm going to reveal 3 weaknesses that make a woman slowly start taking advantage of you. But pay attention, because the third one is the most dangerous, and most men never realize they're doing it. Let's start with the first weakness. The first weakness, overgiving too early. Now this one looks like kindness on the surface. You plan the perfect dates. You respond instantly to every message. You always adjust your schedule for her. You're always available. At first, she may like it, but here's the psychological twist. When a man gives too much too early, it creates a strange effect inside her mind. Instead of seeing value, she starts wondering why you're trying so hard. Human psychology works in a strange way. We tend to value things that feel earned, not things that feel given without effort. And when everything you offer comes too easily, your time, your attention, your emotional investment, she stops seeing it as something valuable. And here's where things slowly begin to change. She may start canceling plans last minute. She might expect favors without giving much back. She might only show affection when it benefits her, not because she's evil, but because the balance of effort has shifted. And when that balance disappears, respect slowly fades with it. Think about it from a different angle. Imagine someone offered you free tickets to a concert every single week, without hesitation, without you ever asking. At first, you'd be thrilled, but after a while, you'd stop appreciating the tickets because they cost nothing to receive. There was no effort, no anticipation, no investment on your part. The same psychological law applies to relationships. When your time is always available, it stops feeling precious. When your attention comes automatically, it stops feeling special. When your affection requires no effort to earn, it stops feeling meaningful. And this is not a flaw in her character. This is simply how human psychology values things. We are wired to protect and cherish what we had to work for, not what was handed to us freely. So the answer isn't to become cold or unavailable. The answer is to have a life, a real one, passions that matter to you, goals that keep you focused, friendships that fulfill you. When a man has a full life, his time becomes genuinely valuable because he has other things he could be doing. And she feels that, not because you're playing games, but because it's true. But here's the question most men ask at this point. If I stop giving, won't she lose interest? Actually, the opposite is usually true, because attraction grows strongest when both people invest gradually, not when one person carries the entire relationship. But this leads us to the second weakness, and this one is even more subtle. The second weakness, fear of losing her. You see, women are incredibly sensitive to emotional signals. They can feel insecurity long before you ever say it out loud. It shows in small behaviors. You hesitate to disagree with her. You apologize even when you didn't do anything wrong. You constantly try to keep her happy. You avoid setting boundaries because you're afraid she might leave. And the moment that fear becomes visible, something shifts in her perception of you. Because confidence and emotional stability are deeply tied to attraction. When a man seems afraid of losing a woman, it sends a subconscious message. She has all the power. And when one person holds all the power in a relationship, they eventually start using it, sometimes intentionally, sometimes without even realizing it. She may start testing you, canceling plans to see if you'll chase, ignoring messages to see how desperate you become, demanding more effort while giving less. These tests aren't always malicious. They're often instinctive. Because humans naturally test the strength of the person they're with. And if every test ends with you proving how afraid you are to lose her, she slowly learns something. You won't walk away. And once someone believes you won't walk away, they stop worrying about losing you. Here's something even more important to understand. Fear of loss doesn't just affect your behavior in big moments. It infects the small ones too. The way you laugh a little too hard at her jokes, even the ones that aren't funny. The way you drop everything the moment she calls, even when you're in the middle of something important. The way you swallow your real opinions just to avoid any tension. She picks up on all of it. Not consciously, perhaps, but somewhere deep in her instincts, a picture is forming. And the picture it creates is not one of a strong, grounded man she can lean on. It's the picture of a man who is quietly terrified. Now contrast that with a man who is genuinely secure. He disagrees with her sometimes, not to be difficult, but because he has his own perspective and he respects himself enough to express it. He doesn't panic when she goes quiet for a day. He doesn't send 5 follow-up messages when she doesn't reply immediately. He doesn't rearrange his entire life around her mood. And what happens? She wonders about him. She thinks about him. She has to work a little to understand where she stands with him. And that mystery, that grounded stability, is one of the most magnetic qualities a man can have. Not because it's a trick, but because it reflects something real. A man who isn't afraid to lose her is a man who values himself. And a woman cannot help but value a man who values himself. But here's where it gets even deeper, because the third weakness is the one that traps men the most. The third weakness, seeking validation from her. This is the one almost nobody talks about. Many men unknowingly place a woman in the role of emotional judge. Her approval becomes the measure of their worth. If she's happy, they feel confident. If she's distant, their mood collapses. If she praises them, they feel valuable. But if she criticizes them, they feel like they're failing. Now think about what that dynamic creates. It places enormous psychological power in her hands, because when your confidence depends on someone else's approval, you become extremely easy to control. She doesn't even need to try very hard. A little attention pulls you closer. A little distance makes you chase. And suddenly the relationship stops being balanced. It becomes a cycle. She gives just enough validation to keep you attached, while you keep trying to earn more of it. And that's when a man unknowingly becomes emotionally dependent. Here's the deeper truth behind this pattern. Most men who fall into this cycle aren't weak people. They're often thoughtful, caring, emotionally intelligent. They simply never learn to generate their own sense of value from the inside. From a young age, many of us were taught to measure our worth through external feedback, grades, praise, approval. And so we carry that habit into relationships without realizing it. We look to her for the signal. Is she smiling? Good, I must be doing well. Is she pulling away? Panic. What did I do wrong? And the relationship becomes an endless performance, always trying to read the room, always adjusting yourself to manage her emotional temperature, always waiting for the moment she confirms that you are enough. But here's the brutal reality. That confirmation never fully satisfies, because the moment you get it, you immediately start worrying about losing it. The cycle never ends, not until you decide to step outside of it completely. And how do you do that? You build an identity that exists entirely apart from her opinion of you. A sense of purpose rooted in your values, work that challenges and fulfills you, physical discipline that reminds you of your own strength, friendships where you feel genuinely known. When those things are in place, her approval becomes something you enjoy, but don't require. And that shift is everything. Because when you don't require her validation, you stop performing. You start simply being. And the man who simply is himself, without apology and without desperation, is endlessly more attractive than the man who is constantly trying to become whatever she needs him to be. But here's the truth that changes everything. The most attractive men in the world share one common trait. Their sense of value does not come from a woman's approval. It comes from within. They enjoy relationships. They invest in people they care about. But their confidence doesn't collapse when someone pulls away. And because of that, women naturally treat them differently. Not because they're richer, not because they're more handsome, but because they don't seek validation. They offer connection, not dependency. And that psychological difference changes everything. Because when a man has boundaries, when he isn't afraid to walk away, when his confidence comes from within, the power dynamic becomes balanced again. And balanced relationships are the only ones where real respect survives. Now, I want to take a moment to talk about something most relationship advice completely ignores: the difference between being a good man and being a doormat. Because here's where a lot of men get confused. When they hear advice about having boundaries and being less available, they assume it means becoming cold, or distant, or emotionally closed off. That's not what this is about. A man with genuine confidence is still warm. He's still generous. He's still capable of deep emotional connection. The difference is that his warmth comes from a place of abundance, not scarcity. He gives because he wants to, not because he's afraid of what happens if he stops. He's kind because it's his character, not because he's trying to earn her affection. That distinction might seem small on paper, but emotionally, she feels it immediately. Generosity born from fear feels suffocating. Generosity born from strength feels irresistible. And that's the version of yourself you're building toward. Not a harder man, not a colder man, a more complete one. Now, before we finish, I want to leave you with one important realization. If a woman has taken advantage of you in the past, it doesn't mean you're weak. It simply means no one ever taught you the psychological patterns that create attraction and respect. Most men grow up believing one thing: just be nice. But attraction and respect are far more complex than that. They're built on balance, confidence, and boundaries. Without those three things, even the kindest man can end up being taken for granted. And here's the hardest part of all of this. The work isn't really about her. It never was. The work is about you. It's about becoming the kind of man who respects himself deeply enough that he simply won't accept less than what he deserves. Not out of arrogance, not out of bitterness, but out of a quiet, unshakable belief that his time, his energy, and his love are genuinely worth something. Because when you carry that belief, it radiates. People sense it before you say a single word. And the right woman, the one worth your effort, responds to it not with games or manipulation, but with real respect, real investment, real presence. That's the relationship that becomes possible when you do this inner work. Not a perfect relationship, but an honest one, a balanced one where both people show up fully, because both people genuinely want to be there. But once you understand these dynamics, everything changes. You stop chasing validation, you stop overinvesting, you stop fearing the loss of someone who doesn't value you. And ironically, that's when people start respecting you the most. Because confidence is silent, boundaries are powerful, and self-respect changes the way the world responds to you. If you found this video valuable, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more insights on psychology, relationships, and human behavior. And if you want to understand these dynamics even deeper, check out the other videos on this channel. There's a lot more wisdom and truth waiting for you there. Because once you start seeing these psychological patterns, you'll never look at relationships the same way again.